to Life Coaching on the Move. I'm your host, Dawn Fiske, life coach, trainer, podcaster, motivational speaker and YouTuber, and have been coaching now for over 17 years. So I've got loads and loads of stories to share with you, loads of examples to share with you. This is a podcast where I don't write a script or follow any format. I just chat. I chat out my thoughts, share stories, experiences, tips and techniques that you can use in your everyday life that will move you forward, will shake things up a bit and will help you make some changes and some improvements. If you're new to this podcast, then please do go back. There are over 45 previous episodes where we cover so many things: bouncing back from adversity, how to build your resilience, how to be happier, how to sort your mindset out, how to motivate yourself, how to move yourself forward, etc. There are loads of previous episodes. If you're going to pick any at all, I would definitely recommend the first few because they kind of give you the platform of my coaching approach. They're a great basis to start on because I sort of draw on that style throughout all of my coaching. If you're interested in one-to-one coaching for you, a colleague or a loved one, then please do go to the website how many W's did I say there? Milestone, milestone, milestone coaching.co.uk. Let me say that all again: www.milestone-coaching.co.uk. There is loads on the website. There's a blog. You can click on the little play button at the top right hand corner for the YouTube, where there's much more structured how-to films and presentations. There are free workshops available occasionally, once or twice a year, certainly not in lockdown though. So have a look there. There's some online programs that I've got for sale online, long online, in-depth, really powerful stress management program that would take at least 7 weeks to do, full of content, that one. That's for sale for you or a colleague to do in your own time. You own it then. You can keep revisiting it down the years as stress may or may not come back into your life at times. It can be a refresher. There's also a shorter one on time management. Equally, if you've got a colleague or a team member or yourself that needs a little bit of help with time management, then that's there for sale as well. So drop me a line if you want certain subjects covered on this podcast, then drop me an email. You can contact me through the website. You can share your successes as well. And if you like this podcast, please share it on your social media or tell your friends about it so that they can gain some tips and some help and some advice too. It may be just what they need right now. The other thing I was going to say today, I am looking into running some online running a online webinar for around 7 weeks on Zoom. So it doesn't matter where you're based geographically ever, either for one-to-one coaching or for this course, a well-being course, how to move you forward, to gain confidence, to get more in control of your life. If you would be interested in that, then please go to the website and drop me an email because I'm working out numbers first, and that will help me work out the logistics. I am considering it being a 7-week program, and with a whole group of people where we all share experiences and we learn from each other and so on. So it's interactive, fun, helpful, and via Zoom. So if you would be interested or you have a friend, please share that idea with them. Let me know and I will put up on the website very soon the cost. It won't be phenomenally expensive because there'll be many of us, so we can break out the cost. It'll be more than achievable. I don't want money to be your barrier. I want it to be open and helpful to everybody. So drop me a message if that is something you would like to sign up for. Then I will be putting up further details and telling you about it more in the next week's podcast and putting it up on the website. but I would only do it if there is enough interest out there. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg situation. Anyway, without further ado, let's move on to this week's episode, which is all about how to overcome obstacles that may or may not be in your way at the moment, how to get around them, through them, under them, over them, how to solve issues you're encountering. So there will be a tiny little gap, and then I'm going to launch straight into the podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Today I wanted to share with you my thoughts really around a topic that I've been reading about. It's bizarre, isn't it? I have got interested in... I was listening to a podcast talking about Marcus Aurelius. I hope I've pronounced that right. Who is one of the sort of renowned Stoics and Stoicism. And I was listening to this podcast, and they were talking about the new book, The Obstacle is the Way, which I've bought and which I'm working through and thoroughly enjoying and would highly recommend. So if you want a book that will definitely encourage you to move forward, definitely encourage a good mindset, then go for it. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Halliday. But I'm going to sort of share some thoughts from it. But what I loved about it was I did not know this. How stupid am I? I did not know that I am a Stoic. All the things that I've believed in, all the things that I talk about on this podcast, I suppose my belief system, my core to my coaching, everything really comes from Stoicism. They've been saying it for millions of years, and I've probably inadvertently soaked it up from various readings, various lectures I've watched, a huge amount of different sources, because as you all know, I'm a constant lifelong learner. I love learning more things. I love hearing other people's views. I love hearing other people's experiences, methods, strategies, and constantly evolve by soaking all of that up. And I suspect you're the same, which is why you're listening to a podcast like this, and I suspect you listen to other similar podcasts where you're soaking it up too. So this may well be talking your language, because you probably believe a lot of this too and have this sort of mindset. But at last I could put a label on it. Anyway. And another book that I read a while ago that I also wanted to draw on today is, I don't even know, I don't think, who wrote this book, but I think the title is something like Everything is Figure-Outable. It's an American author, so the word figure-outable isn't a word that I would use. For me, I would have naturally used the word solvable. And I've always encouraged that with the children. I've always called them problem solvers. Come on, you're a problem solver. Can you help me with this? Or can you have a look at this? Or if they bring a problem to me, well, you're a problem solver. And I genuinely do think they both my children have got different brains to mine and can see things differently, very practically. Especially one of them is a very practical lad, and just has the ability to see physical things from a different angle to me and solve the problem if I'm trying to fit this into that or undo this or make that work or whatever. So I've always said that to them. I've always said, yeah, come on, can you help me? You're a problem solver. And I think they've adopted that mentality, that belief. It's not a bad one to have, I think. So I do think everything is solvable. I can pronounce solvable. It's not that I don't like her title. I do. But it's a brilliant book and very, very true. Because if everything's got a solution, if everything is solvable, and the other title, if the obstacle is the way forward rather than the obstacle, then doesn't that change everything? Doesn't that change every way that we can approach everything? It turns it all on its head. So they're both quite similar in that it's not the physical obstacle that's the problem. If you had a huge barrier in front of your way or a huge issue, maybe you're trying to get promotion, maybe you're trying to find a job, maybe you're trying to get a pay rise, maybe you're trying to move house or solve an issue in the house, or anything like that, something you're trying to sort, and you've got things in the way, issues in the way. They're not making promotions at the moment, or the boss doesn't agree, or there isn't a place for you to go to be promoted to, there isn't a role, or you feel there isn't a great deal of opportunity out there at the moment. They're not recruiting. It's a bad time of year. I hear this all the time. When people come to me for career coaching, yeah, but people aren't recruiting at the moment, it's just before Christmas, isn't it? Wrong. I know loads of people who've landed a new job just before Christmas, for example. But that's the belief system that they've put in their way. They believe it's fact, so it's affecting them, and therefore they don't job search. We've been in very difficult economic times, and so different people will say to me, yeah, there's no point job hunting now, is there? There's nothing out there. They're making redundancies, they're furloughing people, they're closing businesses. Yes, that might be true on the one hand, but there will also be industries that have thrived through this difficult time, and they will be recruiting. So we put these obstacles in our way. Or they may be very physical, they may be very real obstacles. You may genuinely not be able to move forward because there is a proper obstacle in your way, physically. But I would contest that, because it's often there is a way around it. There is a way under it, over it, around it. It's just a case of us changing our mindset about it. I have listened to so many inspiring interviews, stories. I was listening to one recently, and I so apologise, I cannot remember the athlete's name. He was a British Olympic, I think he was British, Olympic swimmer, and he was on holiday, I think. Yeah, I'm sure they were all on holiday. And he took a dive into the swimming pool. I don't think he was training. I don't think it was a training pool. I think it was a holiday villa pool with his brother and his father, all his family around him. And he unfortunately misunderstood which end was the shallow end and which was the deep end, and he went in the shallow end and instantly hit his head. Anyway, long story short, thankfully his dad was a doctor, so helped. It didn't move him out of the water, kept him in the water, but he was basically paralysed from the, I think, neck down. So he had a terrible time in hospital, a very, very long time in hospital, was told that he would never walk again, or very unlikely to walk again, and so on. In fact, I think he was told he couldn't walk again. But it was one of these stories, again, where he got a different doctor involved, moved to a different consultant, who said there was a tiny glimmer of hope, but not a lot. Now that changed his mindset, because all the time there was a glimmer of hope, he was prepared to work on it, and he literally every single day from that moment onwards concentrated on the one toe, the one big toe or something. Literally focused his whole body, his own whole physical being, his whole mindset on that toe to try and get some movement. And he did it day after day after day. And then one day there was a tiny movement. But the moment he got that tiny movement, he knew there was some hope. Now, he by no means is fully recovered, and he says he has accepted he can't fully recover. I don't think he has bladder control, for example, or lots of other controls that he can't do anything about. But he is walking, not brilliantly, but he has managed to climb a mountain. I'm not sure if it was Kilimanjaro, I think, with a great deal of assistance, and has raised a phenomenal amount of money, sponsorship, and charity money for the spinal research. He is incredible, and he acknowledges he didn't want to be a burden. That was the thing. He did not want to be a burden to his then fiancée, now wife, and his family. He accepted he wouldn't be an athlete again. He didn't fight that. He just wanted to be independent and have a life. And he's a great guy. He never ever saw an obstacle in his way. He was determined to overcome that obstacle. He never ever dwelt on why me, or how could this happen, or frustration, or get stuck. He didn't get stuck in the wallowing of the mud that I've talked about, that hippo in the mud that we sometimes do, don't we? We wallow in the mud for a while. He didn't really, perhaps for a short while, but not for long at all. He just focused on how to do something about this, how to get around this, what he could achieve, what he could do, what he would do, etc. He focused on moving forward, quite literally moving forward. And in fact, actually, in the same interview, he talks about another guy that he made friends with in the spinal unit, who had equally been told by a consultant that you'll never walk again, and therefore he had resigned himself to that and was doing no work at all to attempt to prove that wrong or to improve his outcome at all, until the athlete, the swimmer, got cross with him and said, why are you letting that be your reality? Why are you giving into that perception? And you need to start doing something about it. And so together they started to rehabilitate. And I think he profoundly changed that guy's future and profoundly changed that guy's life, because he too started to make progress. So isn't it strange how other people's perceptions can often become our reality, and we must not allow that to happen. Must not allow that to happen. We've got to take things on face value for ourselves. This often happens actually when someone gives you their opinion of somebody or something. It could actually affect us. Let's say you've just started a new job and you're introduced to your colleague who you're going to desk share with. And your colleague who you're going to desk share with is given the task of taking you around the building to introduce you to everybody and let you know what their role is, etc. So they've kind of taken you under their wing. So off you go on a tour around the building, get to know people's names and their roles and so on. And whilst you're walking through the corridors together, going to the next department or the next section, or you're going up in the lift to the next floor, where finance is or accounts or whatever it is. You can imagine this scenario, can't you? It's just a made-up scenario. But the person who's taken you under their wing says, I'm going to take you to the accounts department where whoever is, a real dragon, this one. Stay away, just treat this one with kid gloves, very moody. You've got to pick your moments with this one, tiptoe on eggshells, or something like that, let's say. That then affects your whole being with that person, because that has filtered in. You will forever be very cautious, nervous or whatever of that person. Or let's say they said, I'm going to take you to such and such's office now. Nightmare, stay away from this one, keep your head down. He'd have you for breakfast, he doesn't like new people, she, whatever, got a real temper on them, or so on. Equally, if they said, I'm going to introduce you to such and such, great person, really encouraging, really nice, that too affects you, good or bad. So it can be good or bad. But actually, the grumpy one, or the one with you've got to tiptoe around on eggshells, that's how the person who's taking you under the wing finds them. That maybe they've had an interaction with them where it's caused that, or maybe they were told that by their predecessor, It's just an opinion. And it can affect how you act around that person. Had you not been told anything at all about that person, you may well have approached them completely differently and therefore got a totally different reaction from them. Different treatment, a different relationship. So I really, really object when people tell me their opinions of colleagues, of friends, of neighbours. I mean, it could be, let's say you're buying a new house, and as you're getting to know the homeowners that you're buying from. So you're going to move into number 20, and the owners of number 20 sort of say, well, yeah, it's a lovely neighbourhood except for that house over there. Stay away from there. Really unfriendly. Don't let the children kick the ball into their garden. And so they now have affected you and how you behave around that. You're probably unlikely to put your hand up and wave when you're out getting in your car and you see them. You're probably unlikely to be friendly or go around and mix with them or chat with them or just chat over the fence with them, because that person, the original homeowner's perception, has now affected you. So this is what we used to have when I was in sales. I used to find that as I was taking over another territory, or as one sales rep was moving on and I would take over some of their customers, for example, they would often say, oh, stay away from this one, don't want to know, doesn't like salespeople. Or is a taker, will take all your freebies and then turf you out, we'll never buy it, or whatever it was. Or this place won't let you in, they don't like cold callers. Not true at all. Once I stopped doing that and said, no, don't tell me anything, just give me the contact details, I could go in just as me with a blank canvas and have no preconceptions and not be affected by other people's experiences or perceptions, because it's their preconceived ideas, it's their perceptions, it's not ours. Each of us will get a different reaction from somebody and a different scenario. We bring to the table different things. We will affect a scenario very differently. So we got off task there. So the athlete who made friends with the other spinal guy, they had both initially been affected by the original consultant's view that you will not be able to walk again. This is it for you. You need to get used to the wheelchair situation and all the things you can't do. But they both turned that round. They both overruled that and decided that they were in control and they would do their best. They weren't going to let that person's perception affect them. Or they also got in different consultants that had a different methodology, had different experiences, different skill sets, etc. as well. So we think we've got a massive boulder in front of us, a massive obstacle of whatever it is, something physical that we're trying to do, or is it an emotional obstacle that's in our way? So my question to you is, what at the moment in your life is a potential obstacle, if you want to call it that, or is a closed door to you, or you have said, no, I won't try that because? Where is there something in your life that you're not pursuing, that you've wanted to, you've thought about, but you're not? And why not? What is it that you, in your mind, have said is the stumbling block, the reason for not pushing through? Is it because you can't get there, you haven't got transport? Is it because you can't afford it? Is it because the economy or the government or this or that or the bosses, the company? What is the issue that's stopping you? And now I want you to, so once you realise what you are letting, or if you could see a couple of closed doors in front of you, label on them what the obstacle is. for that closed door? Why haven't you tried to open it? Because lots of closed doors are not locked. We just don't necessarily try the door. We assume it's locked. We assume it's closed in front of us, and therefore there's no reason to try and push through. But the truth is, everything has a solution. There is always a way around it, even if the way around it is changing your mindset about how you think about it. So for me, I believe that there are lots of things out of our control, such as the economy, external things, the economy, the company, the commerce, business, all of those sorts of things, the company, the job market, so on and so on. Yes, you could label those, and yes, you may not be in control of those. However, what we are in control of, as we've said before, is ourselves, is our mindset, is our approach. The things that are in our control are our thoughts, our mood, our motivation, our perception, our opinions, our attitude, our work ethic, our drive, our commitment, our resilience, our effort. All of that is in our control. The other things may not be necessarily, although perhaps they are. Perhaps it's just changing our view of them. But we are totally in control of how much work we put in, whether we're motivated or not motivated, whether committed or not committed, whether we have a healthy, helpful perception of the situation or an unhealthy perception of the situation. But the great news about the fact that all of those things are in our control means at any point we can change them. So where one person, or actually where many, many people may hit the same stumbling block that you're hitting, they may be facing the same issue that you're facing. If you change your mindset about it, and if you change your thoughts and your perceptions and your commitment and your amount of work and effort that you put in, and your approach, trying to get over it, around it, under it, through it, others may not be. In fact, the majority of people probably aren't. So if we can toughen our mindset, if we can toughen our resilience, if we can be stronger, more willing, that's another thing that's in our control, our willingness, and change the perception. Instead of seeing it as a closed door, instead of seeing it as an obstacle, see it as an opportunity and a challenge, and be excited by it. How can I see this as figure-outable? If this were figure-outable, I can barely say that word, or solvable, if someone could solve this, what would they do? If someone could get around this, how might they get around this? If somebody didn't use this as a reason and a block, what would they do? Put yourself outside of yourself, outside of your own limitations. Because actually, the thing that's mostly in our way isn't often something physical and out of our control. The thing that's mostly in our way is us, actually. We've got to get out of our own way. We've got to change how we're viewing things, change our perspective. You can do that. You can actually even, sometimes I do this with clients when I'm working with them physically. I'll get them to get out of their chair and go and sit in another chair in the room. I'll get them to go and sit over there, and now you are a friend or a colleague or another person viewing this same problem from that angle. In fact, actually, if you actually change your position in the room, you change how you view something by physically standing up, moving and looking at it from a different direction. It does help. It sounds bizarre. When I'm running workshops, if it's an all-day event, I find that people, in fact, even one-to-one clients will come into the room, and I always say to them, take a seat. I don't direct them to which seat, and I let them choose the seat that they want to be in. And I find that each time they come back, they'll go to the same seat. Same in a workshop. Delegates will go back to the same seat. But actually, by me moving them around, which I often do, they get a very different perspective, very different experience. So do that. Make yourself have different experiences. If there is something that is a stumbling block to you at the moment, maybe you hadn't even realised it, maybe you just resigned yourself to it so habitually that you didn't even realise you'd resigned yourself to something. Oh no, I can't do that because, and off you walk, and you let it go, and you barely even give it a second thought. Really? If that problem were solvable and somebody else could get around it, how would they? Because at times when the majority of people think there's no future on this path, there's no way around it, we're in a recession, the economy's flat, there's loads of redundancies, there's loads of unemployment, there won't be a job out there for me, what am I going to do? There are no mortgages, you can't get mortgages, you can't get jobs, etc. If we're telling ourselves that, we aren't going to try, are we? So why are we telling ourselves that? And how and what can we tell ourselves instead? Because other people are getting jobs. It's a fact. Even in recession, even at high unemployment, people do get employment. Even when somebody's been told, I'm not saying everybody, there are physical times when it's not possible to walk again physically because maybe the spinal cord's been cut, severed or something like that, whatever, But there are things that we can do about it. I realised it's got very windy as I've turned this corner. I hope you can still hear me. I am out on a dog walk, as you can hear, with probably my footsteps and my breathing and the bird song. So, what have you put up as an obstacle or an excuse? That's another word. Sometimes we're just putting up excuses. What are you stopping yourself from doing? What are you stopping yourself from solving? Because you feel it's physically out of your control. It isn't. I can guarantee you it isn't. There will be things you can do about it. There will be solutions. There will be options. But first, you've got to believe that. First, you've got to recognise that actually you're in your own way, mentally. And because you mentally believe that there's no way around it, you're not looking for a way around it. The minute you think, well, if there were a way around this, if there were a solution, what might it be? Then the doors open. Because now you're looking for the right thing. Now you're considering the right thing. So, it may be doing it differently. It may be doing it online or distance learning, or it depends what you're considering. But there will be a solution. I absolutely know it. There will be more than one solution, in fact. I absolutely believe the majority of things that I imagine you may be dismissing has numerous solutions to it. You just need to get out of your own way and consider what those solutions are, and that will enable you to think of it differently, see it differently. Wind up the clock with your motivation, wind up the clock with your commitment, the amount of effort you put in, the drive, your perception of it, you step up the motivation, everything. So, by changing how we view something, we can change our outcomes. They aren't obstacles, they're just opportunities. Turn them round, because the majority of people will see them as an obstacle and walk away, will give up on them. That leaves the path clear for you. So if you're thinking it's a problem, you can bet your bottom dollar, so the majority of people are. Now you can get ahead of the game and stand out from the crowd, and be different, push through and capitalise on it. And once you've learnt to do that once or twice, you will adopt that mentality in your life from here onwards. And so goodness knows what obstacles, if you want to call them that, you will overcome without even realising it, because you will have learnt a different strategy and a different mindset, and you will inadvertently be applying this, and it will have a knock-on effect with those around you, your children. So this is definitely worth doing. So going forward this week, I recommend that you think about what things have you said, oh yeah, no, but I can't because, or I wish I could just, but there you are. No, it's not going to work. I'd have loved to have done X, Y, and Z, but those are the things you've resigned yourself to. Those are the things you've walked away from. Or there may be some much, much more pressing ones that are big at the moment and need sorting, and you need to change your mindset about them. So do that, work with your book, make notes, what are they, and then look at them from a different angle, even if you have to get out of yourself and consider how somebody else might view them. Start talking about them, discuss them, mull it over with a loved one that you're close to, and see what solutions they have, and start opening up your mind to the fact that if there were a solution to this, what would it be? It may not come immediately. The subconscious is a powerful thing though. Once you open up the subconscious and ask it, it will start working for you, and it will start presenting you. So don't worry if the answer doesn't come straight away. The fact that you're starting to look for it means you may see it an hour or two, a day or two, a week or two later, but your mind is now open. Start researching it, start talking about it, start reading around it, and get yourself an action strategy. It needs action. So even if they're tiny steps, some research, some reading, some inquiring, but make a few phone calls, all those sorts of things, you are now taking steps towards solving it instead of being resigned to the door closed. So all the very best. Share your successes, share your thoughts, as always, dawn@milestone-coaching.co.uk. I'd love to hear from you, and I will look forward to talking to you on next week's episode of Life Coaching on the Move. All the best.